and welcome to today's webinar with the title Lead the Path to Wellness in the Post-COVID Workplace. Finally, it looks like we all see the light at the end of the pandemic. In past year, organizations needed to adapt to the new normal. Remote work has become a big part of it. The employer's fear of lost productivity during the pandemic was mostly unfounded. But my concern is, are they, the employers, aware, and if they are taking appropriate measures to help employees to maintain health and prevent psychosocial hazards at the workplace, but as well for those people from home. I truly hope that we've learned a lesson how important is ill health prevention and why it's important to care for our well-being. So I'm very happy to share this morning discussion with Mr. Vik Bangia, CEO and founder of Verum Consulting. With more than 25 years of background in corporate real estate outsourcing, best practices, experiences in strategic planning and process improvement, I believe Vik is the right person to discuss and share our experience on what kind of measures should be part of every return to work strategy to empower employees, both remote and in office, to manage their health and well-being better. Welcome, Vik. And can you please tell me more about your company, Verum Consulting? What do you do?
Well, thank you, Eva, and thank you for the opportunity to be here on this webinar with you. Really appreciate it. My company, Verum Consulting, is a Minneapolis-based corporate real estate and strategy and operations consulting practice. I spend about half of my time working with corporate clients on guiding them through the outsourcing of their corporate real estate needs and services. I bring a unique relationship-based approach to what I do, which is why I sometimes call the company the e-harmony of outsourcing. About a quarter of my time is spent in strategy and operations consulting, which is purely a management consulting type service. As a result, I sit on the advisory boards of several companies, and my clients in this area include microbreweries and men's grooming businesses, architectural firms, tech firms. I help them with market exploitation, product development, business strategy, marketing, branding, recruiting, all sorts of things that are outside of corporate real estate. I also spend about 10% of my time in training and development, working with companies that are undergoing transition. I teach classes in storytelling and personal branding and negotiation psychology, team building, team alignment, that type of thing. And that frees me up for about 15% of my time, which I like to do this type of thing, get on webinars, host webinars, deliver keynote speeches. I have the pleasure of speaking to groups about interesting, timely, and actually sometimes controversial topics.
As I understand correctly, you spend a lot of time with your clients, especially corporate real estate and facility management leaders, helping them in developing return to work plans. What do you see as the future of the corporate workplace?
Well, it's interesting. So there's a little bit of a different vision between me and my clients. According to my clients, there's this pent-up need to be back in the office. There's a sense of longing for being back in the corporate culture and in the mix. People miss people. It's been a long time since we've been all together and being able to gather. They miss those personal interactions and those sort of random collisions with people in the office place. They want that familiarity. But interestingly, despite the desire to be back in the office, some recent research that I've seen from the architectural and design firm Gensler was sort of eye-opening. It showed that 19% of employees in the US want to work full-time at home. And of the remaining 71%, 52% would prefer some sort of hybrid model where they have the opportunity to go in the office when it's appropriate, but also work at home when they'd like to work at home. And only 29% of people want to work full-time in the office. But also interestingly, there was some research that I actually saw last night from my friends at Colliers on a different webinar that said 48% of people report working more hours and feeling more stressed and less connected to their coworkers in the office. So here's my personal prognostication, and that's a little different again from what my clients think. Especially if we go into this next cycle of the pandemic where we have to shut down our facilities again and maybe even go into a lockdown despite the presence of a vaccine, which will take several months to roll out. So I believe first, companies are going to spend a lot of time, effort, and energy and money developing their reopening plans. It's not an exercise in futility. They have to do this. It's important to put these plans together, and I think they should be doing this. And if I can help guide them in developing these plans, that's what I'm set up to do. But whenever it happens, and I think it'll be middle of next year before it starts, people will go back into the office, but it won't be the same. The novelist Gertrude Stein actually once wrote about about Oakland, her hometown. She said, "There's no there there," which means she went back and it was very different than what she expected. And that's going to be the same for employees going back to their offices. What they're looking for in the old office environment, that old communal atmosphere and that old feeling won't be there, or if it's there, it'll be greatly diminished. And what will happen is that in the final analysis, they'll determine for themselves that the hassle is not worth it. The commute time, the disruption, the stress. They'll just decide, if I'm given a choice to go into the office or to work from home, I'd rather work from home. But that doesn't solve the issue of stress. Stress is still going to be a major concern for people, because in that same Gensler study that I mentioned earlier, 47% of respondents admitted to being lonely working from home. I mean, it is a challenge, and I've been home since the end of February. I can guarantee there's a lot of times where it's absolutely terribly lonely working from your home office and feeling disconnected. And loneliness can lead to a lot of bad things like depression and poor eating habits, alcoholism, drug use, absenteeism, and ultimately, I think, higher medical and healthcare costs. And that's why I think our discussion today is so important. As I said, companies are going to develop their reopening plans. I think it's important to do so. They have to do it anyway. And right now, the other thing I see is that most companies that I'm working with, their reopening plans are all about the physical space, just the physical office environment, the physical building, and the wayfinding around the building, things like that. I'm advising my clients to ensure that they address psychological safety as well as physical safety. I'm also making sure that the real estate service providers that they work with, the companies like CBRE, JLL, Cushman, and several other larger facilities service companies and real estate services companies, that they're all developing a very culturally sensitive model for the deliveries of facilities management and maintenance based on their client's company culture. So I think what's going to happen is that companies are going to modify their plans between now and when they actually implement them for the future, maybe middle of next year. And they'll start to consider converting a lot of their existing office space into collaboration spaces. They're going to start to implement new technologies for access to the building and other types of technology for employee safety in the workplace. And then they're going to ultimately decide they have to execute, because of some financial and operational considerations, on every possible exit strategy that they can in their portfolio. But almost all of the plans I've seen or I've reviewed show huge gaps or the wrong priorities with respect to psychological safety.
Vik, in your opinion, what should be the main priorities for corporate real estate and facility professionals?
Well, the overarching one is safety. I think that that's the physical safety we're talking about, related to experience of walking around and being back in the corporate office environment. Safety in the common areas of the building, safety in the cafeteria, visitor safety, whether you allow visitors or contractors in your building right away or if you wait, fire, life, and safety categories, things like that. I think the first order of priority for most companies should be to make sure that people feel safe. Because once they feel safe, the second workplace priority then that you can bring in is wellness. And employees are going to come back to the office after almost a year, maybe longer, of being away. They're going to have a form of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, whether it's from the pandemic or whether it's from spending all the time at home with their kids or their spouse. They're going to have challenges, and they're going to have issues that they need to deal with. Some employees are even going to be tentative about coming back at all. If they're on the close to retirement side of their life, they may decide to take early retirement. We may see people come back to the office, and because of all the new rules and regulations, they may say, you know what, I'd rather work from home, and they'll revert to working from home. But no matter what, I think companies are going to have to address their employees' mental health and well-being, not just when we go back to the office, but I think this is a seismic shift where companies are going to have to address mental health, emotional health, well-being as a rule. And so that's the second one, wellness. I think the third one is, hygiene. And by that, I mean cleaning, the amount and frequency of regular cleaning that takes place in the office. I need to show my employees, if I'm an employer, that all the surfaces have been cleaned after every conference room was used, or something related to how food gets delivered within the corporate office environment. Maybe we have contactless food delivery within an office environment where the cafeteria doesn't allow you to go to the cafeteria itself, but delivers food directly to you or directly to a certain area, just like we can get at home. We need a plan that addresses or enforces, or at least strongly encourages, good personal habits as well, and polite behavior to make sure that people are treating each other with respect and not being intimidating or creating a hostile work environment. So that's third, which is hygiene. Fourth, I think it's remote work strategies. Because we've all been working from our home offices, companies have to realize they need to address how people work at home. We need evidence-based information on how it's working. And I think for a lot of companies, it's working just fine. People are just as productive working from home. The challenge is that, they probably need to provide their employees a home office environment that's ergonomically correct, and one that allows for them to manage and improve their health and well-being while they're away from the office. I've gone from traveling every single week to working from home full-time since February. And I've had to retool all the ways I do my work with my clients. I've been able to leverage their policies, and I've been able to add to their sense of teamwork. But as a consultant, it's just conjecture if I say that. I think what's really important is to have evidence-based data coming to the clients, corporate clients, so they can see how this works, and then increase their productivity both inside and outside of the office. And lastly, I know I'm running, I've got a lot of things to talk about, I know, but finally, I think it's the financial and operational considerations, because I think we're going to be decommissioning a lot of space in the corporate real estate industry. The reopening plans that companies create are going to require a lot of capital, a huge capital expenditure. But if you look around, because business has fallen off for so many companies, they're going to emerge from this pandemic in a very cash-strapped position. So how do you balance that? How are you going to deal with business disruption? How are you going to address those technological needs that you need to create a remote work capable workforce? That includes everything from like space planning and capacity and demand forecasting, consolidation decisions. There's going to be many of those, and it's really challenging, I think, for clients to understand and appreciate that the financial and operational conditions may be a big driver. Now, I know I put those in priority order, and I think all are the same, high priority, but I had to order them in a way that made sense.
You've emphasized so many important things, but it's interesting that you've mentioned wellness and well-being, but that topics usually fall to human resource department.
Yeah, it does. I mean, wellness has always been something that's falling under human resources and maybe the benefits apparatus within corporations. But, I think it should be different going forward. I think because of COVID, this has been an unprecedented opportunity for the real estate and facilities and the workplace strategy organizations within corporations and within the service provider world to step up and take charge of wellness. Because while it's been a good idea, it hasn't really been something that has been addressed wholesale, across the industry. So um, let me tell you why I think it should be different. But before I do, let me, in the spirit of full disclosure for everybody that's on the call, let me first describe our relationship for everyone. So the folks that are on the call, Ava and I first met back in 2017. We were both speaking at an event called the World Forum for Foreign Direct Investment in Shanghai, China. And I was there as a speaker talking about workforce development and employee retention strategies, and really talking about the difference between, the multi-generational workforce and millennials and all sorts of things like that. And we met, and I got to understand what Ava and her company were doing. And I was fascinated, first of all, by the technology, because I thought it was great to be able to put, health and wellness on your phone and allow you to manage it from wherever you are. And so we kept the conversation going over the last 3 years. But when COVID hit, I felt that it was really important to take the technology that they had developed with the Mayo Clinic and put it right in the hands of employees as part of a reopening strategy for a post-COVID environment. So I reapproached the company earlier this fall, and we started a conversation. And so, we fast forward to that, and I thought and told them I think they have the unprecedented opportunity to bring this tool and make the app part of a reopening or return to work plan. So that's how I was engaged by them, and they're my new client, because I'm helping them develop the strategies for bringing wellness into the post-COVID workplace. And I'm also encouraging corporate real estate facilities managers to lead the charge. So anyway, so that's why I think it should be different, because now, as companies are creating their reopening plans, this is the opportunity where wellness becomes part of a facility reopening plan. And that entire issue and topic and implementation falls under facilities management. Now, they may need to partner with their HR and benefits folks, but I think the ownership, it's ripe for corporate real estate facilities to take ownership of it. So now I actually have a question for you, Eva. So, as I said just now, I think 24A Life has developed this great tool for the workplace. It can deliver stress management and fitness and connectedness with other employees in your office. I think corporate real estate facilities leaders should sort of, put the topic of wellness into their workplace reopening plans. So is there a way you can show the audience a little bit about what the app does? I know we talked about it, but I think, it's even better if you can show a little bit about what the app does and why you think it can promote healthier, happier, and more connected employees wherever they are, whether they're working in the office or working from home.
Well, of course, thank you, Vik, for this question. Maybe just to give you a little bit of the background of the 24A Life, it's a solution, it's a platform that was developed about 10 years ago based on our own experience. We're an IT company with a headquarters in the European Union. And there was a point of time where our employees faced the burnout. So we realized that we need to help them to recover so they can be again motivated to work and of course to feel better. And once we successfully help them to recover, we realized that this is a thing that we should prevent it. So that's how the idea of 24A Life came to life. And because we have that strong technical background in our headquarters, we are confident enough that we are able to develop an IT solution that can help others, other companies to use it. But the main question or concern we have was, are we able to deliver the evidence-based content to the clients? And this was actually the main reason that we approached to the Mayo Clinic, present our model, the idea, the science in the back. And they were pretty impressed, saying that, wow, that really goes in a line with our vision of ill health prevention and preventive health. So that's how we establish a partnership. And during all this time, making researches together, 3 years ago, we established a partnership with them. So they're also co-owners of 24A Life. And that really makes us so proud, because now we are confident enough that we have the best and of course evidence-based knowledge in our solution and that we can offer it. Just like you mentioned, evidence-based things should be a top priority in organizations while including different measures into the well-being strategies. So if I may, I would love to just give you a short impression how the app looks like, because basically we developed on one hand the app for the end users, employees, and as well for the organizations, whether that be an HR department or other leaders of such a programs. But there was one thing that we really kept in mind as well, was that we explore why some wellness programs didn't deliver the success, and we tried to find answers. And one of the things definitely was a poor planning and the lack of monitoring. So with the IT support, we can assure that leaders of the program are able to manage, monitor, and follow the progress. And if they see, the decrease in motivation, they can react much quicker. So I'll show you just how the site for the employees looks like, the app. So we have all that valuable information about healthy lifestyle just a few clicks away. So we really need someone to motivate us and guide us. And I think that the app has that capacity and the power to do it. So let me just give you a short impression about the app. So as mentioned, all the things we can offer to employees comes in the form of mobile app, different programs targeting different needs, Mayo Clinic diets for people to help them to maintain a proper body weight and to improve their nutrition. Of course, also we concern about people who are having a diabetes, so a slightly adjusted programs for them as well. So they can also follow the nutrition recommendations. Stress, you've mentioned, is one of the biggest challenges. So the Mayo Clinic Resilient Mind program is one that can help people, so people just follow it. The same similar program, 12 Habits of Highly Healthy People, raises awareness, what to do, how to live healthier, what are those 12 habits that we need to implement in our life to become healthier. So there are many, many different measures and programs in the app, and we deliver, of course, those which are the most needed in the company. So that means that we don't offer everything, but we understand what the needs of the people are, and then simply show it and showcase it through the app. So people have all this information on their app and they can follow it. So the programs are designed in the way that are very engaging, user-friendly, easy to use, but has that strong content that deliver success, because all these programs are evidence-based and are evaluated. The researchers are published in plenty of scientific journals and newspapers. So this is the way how we approach. The idea is to have like your personal assistant in your pocket.
Yeah, that's great. It's so obvious that this app can empower employees, both people that are working remotely and people that are in the office, to better manage their own health and well-being. It's so simple and so cost-effective to actually just make this something that employers give to their employees and say, this is to help you manage your stress and help you to create a better, healthier lifestyle, because we value you as an employee. We want you to stay with the company, and we want to show you how much we care, even though you're not in the office every day. And as corporate real estate and facilities folks internalize this topic and this discussion, what do you think are some talking points that they can use? Because they're going to have to, kind of create a consensus and maybe socialize the idea of this type of wellness app to be part of their facilities management reopening plan. They're going to need some guidance on, how do I talk to my benefits people about wanting to take charge of wellness? How do I talk to my senior leadership about why wellness is so important to be delivered as part of the workplace experience? How would you guide them in giving their leadership the right talking points so that they can make something like this happen?
Convincing the management is always a challenge. I face the same challenge while working with our clients. So how to convince someone that implementing such a solution or any kind of wellness measures is effective. Because a few years ago, I know that many newspapers, Times, New York Times, and so on, were reporting about that wellness failed to deliver success, that programs usually don't work. But as I mentioned, we need to understand why. So when we talk with the senior management, when they're, of course, giving the final decision, we need to talk, of course, their language. So their language is the most easiest thing to talk through the numbers. And there are plenty researchers saying how effective it is. So American Heart Association is saying that if you invest $1 for employee wellness, it can return on $3 up to $5. In Europe, some of the researchers from occupational health and safe agencies even reporting that €1 invested into employee wellness can return on up to 11 euros, which I think it's a huge return on investment. Then when we talk about these numbers, we still need to be aware that we can achieve those numbers if people will participate in such a program. So when we form a program, we need to have the answer why we're implementing. So is there a need? Yes, definitely it is a need, but we need to understand how to implement it. And we need to create KPIs that we will follow. And I think the system that we offer in the back end can really help us to follow those KPIs. So how many people is participating? Are they participating? How the motivation is fluctuating? Because we know that honeymoon effect always happens after three weeks, 14 days to 3 weeks. So again, we need to give them a bit push motivation or to boost their motivation. So there are things that my advice is that, of course, we know that employee wellness is not a cost, it's an investment, but we need to be confident enough that we know how to implement such a program and make it really happen. So if we have such a support from the IT and the background, the knowledge background, evidence-based measures, then definitely we can deliver what we are promising to the management. So of course, the things that you already mentioned, Vik, with such a programs, with ill health prevention, promotion of health, well-being, we can decrease the levels of absenteeism, definitely the presenteeism, which is even higher, the presenteeism, which is more hidden cost than absenteeism is. We can also make a stress reduction. We can focus on mental health, which is so important topics. It's too often neglected. There is so much stigma around it, but we need to address it. And of course, with addressing mental health, again, we can decrease levels of absenteeism and of course, lower healthcare costs in general. But I'm always emphasizing it's not just about lowering costs. We also need to think how we can help people to become more productive, and definitely people who are confident at work, who feel good at work, are happy, satisfied, are definitely more productive than others. And I think here it's also a huge thing why it is important and beneficial to implement wellness programs.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
So definitely, Vik, I wanted to ask you, what do you think, why well-being matters in post-COVID work, and what is the future of the post-pandemic office environment?
Well, I think wellness matters a lot for several reasons. I think the tide is turning between the employer and employee relationship. Employees are not going to risk their health to work for a company, and they'll start to demand more and more attention be paid to mental health and well-being by the company. We've already seen that dynamic changing even before the pandemic. I think I even mentioned this a few years ago when we were in Shanghai together. When I walk in for an interview with a company and I'm an employee, prospective employee, I bring in my resume and I sit down with the HR person and I say, here is my resume, here's my background, here's everything that I've done in my career. This is why you should hire me. But the next generation of employees walking into the same environment saying, here's my resume, here's my background, here's everything I've done in my career so far. Why should I work here? And that nuance, that shift has really tilted the balance of power, because it's given employees more say in what gets done. And it's put pressure on employers to sort of react to that and to make changes. That tide now includes mental health and wellness also. As an employer, you have to guarantee my safety if I'm an employee, both physical and psychological. And I guess I should define psychological safety when I say this. According to Amy Edmondson, who's in a Harvard Business School professor, psychological safety is the belief that someone will not be punished or humiliated for speaking up when they have ideas or questions, or they're have some concerns or want to highlight a mistake. That was a term sort of built into teamwork and team building. But I think in the post-COVID environment, psychological safety means something a little different. It means ensuring that any employee's fears, concerns, and issues will be heard and addressed in a safe, open, respectful manner, and whatever action is taken as a result of that communication is communicated outside to everyone else in the corporation in a transparent and thorough manner for the benefit of all. So I think psychological safety is something that we have to definitely focus on in the post-COVID environment. But that means that well-being really matters in a post-COVID environment.
Definitely, and we are not yet aware what the Generation Z will bring up on the table. But Vik, while we're discussing, we just received a question for you. What you're working with companies who are change resistant to incorporating remote working in their post-COVID work culture. Are you? Any comments?
That are resistant to people going remote?
Yes.
No, most of the companies I work with, in fact, it's a trend in the corporate real estate industry, sort of led by some of the tech firms like Google and LinkedIn and Facebook even, who said that 50% of their employees are going to work from home full time, at least. I think most of the companies I work with, and I work with larger Fortune 500 companies, all of them are developing a balanced return to work strategy where they'll allow a majority of their people, especially people that are considered capable of doing remote work and being productive in a remote work setting, to work from home full time if they want. So that option is there. I'm not working with any companies that are mandating a full return to work, 100% return to work policy at this point. And I think it's also important to sort of keep in mind that the vaccine may be a gauge going forward as far as going back to the office. Some companies may require that you have been vaccinated before you're allowed back in the office versus not. And then maybe that'll be more important for companies that need frontline workers or need folks that are in mission critical roles to be within a facility. But the companies I'm working with right now are all fairly flexible in their approach to return to work.
Perfect. So thank you, Vik. Do you have any final thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. Final thoughts. Well, yeah, I think more than anything else, I believe that this is the time for corporate real estate and facilities managers to step up. We've always talked about leading something. We've always talked about wanting a seat at the table. We've always talked about being in the strategic apparatus of the company's strategy going forward. And we've always been sort of sidelined in the corporate real estate and facilities world. We started to move more and more into those meetings and into that strategic function, which I think is great for the industry. But this is the time where we can pick up the mantle and take wellness and workplace well-being and mental health and all the issues associated with productivity at work, because that's so much ingrained into the workplace, and we can take control of workplace wellness. I think for the long time it's been in human resources, but since corporate real estate and facilities are at the forefront of this redesign, this topic is going to be part of our strategy, and I think that's really where it belongs. Now, I need to make a distinction that when it comes to enforcement and compliance of workplace wellness and behaviors within the office, the behavior enforcement should be part of security, which usually falls under facilities management. but the discipline and the policy and the compliance should be part of HR. So in other words, if people are misbehaving in the office and are not following protocols for safety, facilities and security should be the first point of contact for enforcement. And if it becomes habitual for that employee to break policy, then it becomes an HR issue. So I'm not trying to take anything away from HR on their main role of compliance, but I am saying that enforcement should be part of something within the facilities management. And they should be responsible for policies and procedures, protocols and principles with respect to both physical and psychological safety. And then HR should be responsible for compliance and discipline. I also think that what you just brought up earlier, the 24A Life Wellness app is a natural fit with other technologies that I've seen that are being used by corporate real estate facilities management. And I'll just outline a few of those that I think are really sort of going to lead the way. The first one are kiosks for entry to building facilities. These kiosks have touchless hand sanitizing and temperature sensing capability. They operate oftentimes in a two-stage environment where if you fail a temperature sensing reading or are spiking a fever, you have to go to a second kiosk, and then you'll have somebody you can talk with and a second set of clearance protocols, and then you may be admitted to the building. But if not, then you'll have to be sent home. This allows cloud-based data aggregation. So if you fail at one kiosk, you can't just go to another kiosk and try to pass by it. You can't game the system that way. The other aspect of that is you can do Bluetooth and RFID technology where your badge will emit a sound if you get too close to somebody else for a long enough period of time. That way you can monitor people who may be violating social distancing protocols within the office. It's kind of a neat technology around automated kiosks. Another technology I've seen is air monitoring. That's really important because it puts out air quality reports, which I think is really something that give people a sense of comfort, especially in a multi-tenant building. A lot of times the demising wall between spaces does not go all the way slab to slab, and therefore you're actually getting air coming in and flowing around from other tenants and other occupants of the building, which could be a big risk. So air monitoring is really important. And if you talk about air, you have to talk about water. A lot of these buildings have been sitting fallow since March. And one big issue is Legionella in the water supply. If standing water has been standing too long, you run the risk of Legionella in the water supply. And that's a big concern. I mean, in fact, it might even be a bigger health risk than COVID. And then, of course, it's your wellness app. I think that we've already talked about that. I think that's a fantastic tool for the future. And then finally, a benchmarking tool. I think that if you're going to measure space utilization against your internal and external benchmarks, and you're going to try to strategize for how much space you need to decommission, you want to be sure that you get that absolutely right. If you make a mistake and over dispose space, you're going to end up paying extra for reclaiming that, or you're going to end up disrupting your business beyond your business's ability to tolerate the disruption. So I think it's really important to determine your space decommissioning strategy, and you really need to be accurate when it comes to those things. So my final thoughts are to look at all the technology that's out there, incorporate them into your reopening plans, communicate your reopening plans, and if you, based on this webinar, have felt that you have gaps within your reopening plans, give me a call. I'm happy to help you address all of the gaps that you have in those plans.
Thank you, Vik, but it looks like we're not wrapping up yet because we have another question.
Okay.
So I'll just read the question. How are the CRI and FM leaders preparing people to get them ready to return to workplaces? Are they creating change management tools, communications, and trainings? This is my passion for me, and I'm interested in learning more.
Yes, absolutely. So communication is vitally important. What I always tell my clients is, first of all, communicate openly and honestly, have a plan, let people know that the plan is a living document, and make sure that it's accessible to everybody. Seek their input and feedback on the plan so that it evolves with your companies and that it matches your company culture. That's very important because you can't do a one-size-fits-all reopening strategy. You have to do one that's specifically and culturally sensitive to your own environment. But the answer is that companies are putting together these reopening plans. They do involve change management. They do solicit advice from people and give ownership of the plan to employees, soliciting feedback. That's the whole psychological safety, the first definition, which is any ideas should be brought in safely and openly, and people should be encouraged to deliver their ideas. But my clients are all polling their employees to understand what they feel is best for their company. That's why I said the statistics I gave you are great, but I can tell you that if you gave me an employee satisfaction survey on a day that I had an argument with my boss, my answers are going to be different that day than they're going to be on the next day where I'm feeling fine about my employer. The same thing with employee sentiment. You want to make sure you're constantly gauging what your employees are thinking and feeling.
Perfect. Thank you. And the last question, if you know the answer, what kind of technologies are company using as a temperature taking and pre-screening for COVID prior to allowing access to the building? What is the best system and the most cost effective?
Wow. Well, so I'm not one to say what is the best system. I can certainly talk about technology that I have seen. In fact, if anybody on the call wants to send me a LinkedIn invitation, I have written an article called Guardians at the Gate, which is all about the temperature sensing kiosks with one particular company that has produced them. But there's several companies that are producing these. I just happened to interview a gentleman that actually has a company close by here in Minneapolis about their temperature sensors. So, you can take a look at that article. It talks not just about the product itself, but it talks about the whole philosophy of why they're going into that particular business. And the really interesting comment in that article is that individual that I interviewed says that COVID is to corporate real estate what 9/11 was to the airline industry. In other words, it's going to disrupt the entire office environment. So a really, I think, thought-provoking article, but if you send me a LinkedIn invitation, you'll be able to find it on my LinkedIn page. The title of it is called Guardians at the Gate of the Post-COVID Workplace.
So thank you so much, Vik, for all these valuable insights and comments. I really enjoyed our conversation. So many exciting take-home messages. So guys, if you're wondering how to give your employee well-being program a whole new dimension, you're welcome to contact us at 24A Life or just simply request for the demo. And if you need help with your reopening plans, you're more than welcome to contact Vik. I believe he'll be happy to assist. And Vik, I really look forward to our future cooperation. And once again, thank you so much for your time today.
Well, thank you. This was a pleasure. I really appreciate it. And thanks to everyone that was on the webinar here. I believe you said you're going to record this and it's going to be reposted for people to watch either through LinkedIn or any other social media channels you have, or your website, right?
Correct. That's
excellent.
Correct. So thank you so much. And thank you also for all who are joining and spending this morning with us. Thank you so much and take care.
Bye.